Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Yeah No No Yeah. In this one, we are discussing the 4 Hannibal movies. Everything from Manhunter to Silence of the Lambs to Ridley Scott's Hannibal and then Red Dragon. So it definitely made for a lot of interesting discussions about the film, so we hope you guys enjoy listening to that. If you want to avoid spoilers to any of these movies, then just look at the timestamps in the description of the episode, where we also keep the links to all of our social medias, link trees, stuff like that, and the Patreon if you want to help support the podcast. We'd really appreciate it. And don't forget to interact with the poll. We read the poll results off at the beginning of every next episode, so we'd appreciate if you interact with that. So yeah, let's get into it. I was just saying how I got this coffee at a drive-thru this morning, and why do coffee baristas feel like they need a good tip for doing the easiest coffee ever?
Tipping is only a thing in America, dude.
It's starting to make its way over here.
I mean, when you go to a restaurant there, they do tips there at least, right? You could leave a tip.
I mean, you can always leave a tip anyway, but it's
not
as
big of a
encouraged.
thing. It's not. I don't even go into the shop. They hand it through me through the drive-through, and then she asks, "Do you want to put a tip on?" And usually I'm too nice, and so I usually say sure. But this morning I was just I tapped the skip button on the machine right as I was looking at her. I was like, nope, I'm not doing it today, because this plain coffee cost me $4, which is already way too much.
That's probably $9 in Australia.
The difference between America and Ireland and Australia is that America gets paid fuck all, and that's why they need tips.
That's true.
The corporations are fucking assholes.
Oh god, I'm gonna be fucked,
yeah.
aren't I?
Well, it depends on the job. A lot of these service jobs, like food service and stuff, I do think it's stupid how tips are supposed to be they include that in a part of their wage, which should not be a thing.
Yeah, every restaurant I went to over there, it was very encouraged on me, and I was kind of huh?
Technically, they're getting paid so little to where the tips kind of count as part of their wage. I think that's dumb, to be honest.
I tip people if the experience was memorable or something, or if they were really nice, but
exactly.
I'm not going to go out of my way otherwise.
Have you ever been tipped, Liam?
Yeah, plenty. It's still not as frequent over here, and they can choose to put in a tip on online orders and stuff, or they can just give you cash, but mostly only old people give me cash. There's this one address that I've gone back to 4 times or something. They give me $10 each time, so they're really nice. But
wow, that's awesome. I think it should be as big of a thing. If you do a really good job, and if it's a difficult order that I'm giving you, then I'll tip you for that. But I'm literally asking for plain coffee that was already made before I even got there, and all they do is put it in a cup.
Yeah, you haven't earned a tip for that.
Yeah, and then this college girl is expecting me to tip her. You're not the only one financially struggling.
Yeah,
we all need money here, so I'm sorry.
Just go into a rant about the economy next time. She'll love that.
If I lived in America, I'd just feel really bad. Yeah, they just paid fuck all. I'd be yeah,
exactly.
Fucking here you go. Just have a dollar. Why not?
That's what I usually do. But yeah, shout out to our patrons who help support us. Kath at Kath Fernway. Thanks, Kath.
Thank you, Kath.
Moving _ pictures. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
And thank you, Sarah's popcorn chat.
Come on, some energy.
He's I was about to say, he's on autopilot right now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My neck is so fucking sore. Holy shit.
Appreciate it, Sarah.
Yeah, Amy at Ardor Film.
Amy, thank you.
Thanks,
you, Amy.
Thanks, mother. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Liam's mom.
Luna
_ Bell.
And thank you to Quinn's brother, Graham.
Thanks,
you,
Graham, for not having any
Appreciate
underscores.
it if you're listening. Poll results. If we have any votes. Oh my god, we got 1 vote. Come on. It's should I even fucking read it?
Come on, guys.
It was from the Steal This Podcast episode, System of a Down. What's your favorite System of a Down album? And I put all 5. 1 person voted for Mesmerize. That's it.
Vote in the fucking polls.
Vote in the goddamn polls, guys. Come on.
Even though the Oscars are all done, I finally decided to still finish and complete watching all the Best Picture nominees. The last one I had was Maestro. To my surprise, it was actually it wasn't bad. It was actually pretty solid. Just could have been so much better, because it is blatant Oscar bait. I think it's like good Oscar bait. Like that's the thing. Like it's actually pretty good. I don't know. I wasn't really that interested in like the guy himself and the story and everything, but just as a movie, the way it was made, like the music, the camera work, the performances, even though it's kind of fun to make fun of Bradley Cooper's performance in that, it was still kind of good. And Carey Mulligan was great. I liked a lot of the character moments between Bradley and Carey. There was a lot of sweet moments in there. A little too long, but it was actually pretty solid. Feeling generous, and I'm going to give it like a 7 out of 10. Like, it's actually well made.
One that I listened to was The Information by Beck. I also listened to Guerrero before that because I'm still continuing my Beck journey, but I want to talk about The Information because it was the first fantastic Beck album. This thing may be like a 10. It may be. Like, it may be.
It's awesome.
Right now it's like a 9 because some moments in it didn't really work for me too much, but it's like, I just can't get over how, like, all over the place the instrumentation is, but, like, how much he makes it work. Just unreal, and it's, like, it's such a different sound at times for Beck. I fucking love Strange Apparition. That song is an elevator music, Cell Phone's Dead,
yeah, I was
New
just
Round, No Complaints. Movie theme is fucking beautiful.
No, I'm with you. That's like tied for my favorite Beck album, and I've listened to most of his stuff. I
didn't really like expect much out of it because I don't hear that many people talking about this one. I don't know, maybe I'm just not looking in the right place, but it shocked me. And like it's almost an hour long as well, but it like felt like it just went by so quick. It was a great album. 9 out of 10 for now.
Probably same for me. I haven't even thought about rating it, but it's probably the same. Midnight Vultures is my favorite album from him, but this could beat it. Like, The Information could beat it.
I'll also do an album. I've been listening to more albums than watching movies recently, which is rare for me.
Same.
That's not rare for you, shut up.
No, it's not rare, but...
No, my two music moods recently have been Neil Young and punk music. And I've been really getting back into punk because it's, you know, it's probably, if I had to pick, it's probably one of my favorite genres. Like, it's something that I'm always kind of drawn to. And I listened to an album called No Gods, No Managers by Choking Victim. And I loved it. It's fantastic. It's like a leftist punk album, but like there's
oh god,
half this. No, it's leftist in like its politics, like in what we were talking about with like, the fucking the tipping and shit. Hell yeah. There's interludes on the thing that like talk about like fucking America's relationship with like foreign countries and how shitty they are with that. Like including, I think there was like one about like the relationship with Grenada, and that was fucking, it was eye-opening. But then like half the songs are about smoking crack.
As you do.
It's awesome. There's literally a song in it called Crack Rock Steady, and it's so catchy. I thought it was going to be hardcore punk, but it turned out to be ska punk, which is the second least respected of the punk genre after pop punk. No, this album was really awesome. I loved the songs Suicide, 500 Channels, Crack Rock Steady, Fuck America. Amazing album. What song? I don't think I really liked Five Finger Discount. I thought that was kind of a bit lame, but every other song, constant bangers all throughout. Really enjoyed it. I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
I watched probably, as of now, the most depressing movie I've actually ever seen.
It's
a high bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is extremely high bar because that's like half of what I watch is just depressing movies. So I watched from 1971, Johnny Got His Gun. From Dalton Trumbo. It's the only movie he ever directed. I've been wanting to watch this since I was honestly like a little kid, because it's the famous movie that Metallica uses clips from in their music video 1.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I mean, half that music video is just clips from the movie. And so I've always wondered what the hell that is. And so, I mean, I don't want to say it's what got this movie famous, but like what brought a lot of attention to it was definitely that, because their lyrics directly align with what the movie's about. Do you know the premise to this movie? Both of you?
I know the premise. I know the premise to 1.
Right. I'll briefly because it's such a kind of simple premise, but it is so devastating. It's an anti-war movie about this young guy who has like a full life ahead of him. He's got like a girlfriend and like, it seems like a good life, but he has to go to war in World War I, and he gets blown up by an artillery shell. He loses his arms, he loses his legs, he loses his sight and his hearing. He loses all of his senses and all of his limbs, but he's still alive and his brain is still intact, and he's in the hospital, and he's basically a prisoner in his own mind because he can't see, he can't hear, he can't do anything, but he's still conscious, and so he's basically trapped in his own body. Like he can't, and it's just like a living hell. And and so there's your premise. And he, over time, he tries to somehow communicate with like the nurses and everybody. Basically, like he just wants to, like, you know, he just wants to die, but they're keeping him alive. He goes through some trippy flashbacks and trippy fucking like things that go on, and it's just like a really heavy movie, but it's a really effective anti-war movie. It's one of like I never say films upset me, but this was like really like upsetting, but in a good way, I guess. Like it got to me, and I'd give it an 8 out of 10, but it is, yeah, very like heavy, obviously.
What were the problems you had with it?
Some of the acting is kind of weird. People say that the main actor is like, it's very like strange, his performance, but I guess it kind of adds to the discomforting like quality of the movie. And at
What's he
parts,
meant to do? He has no senses.
Exactly. Well, like, no, but there's narration throughout it, because like you're hearing what he's thinking. So like he's narrating over the movie. And so like that makes it even more kind of disturbing, honestly, because like a nurse will walk in the room and he can't see, he can't hear. All he can tell is like the vibrations, like he can feel the vibrations of her walking in the room. And then you hear him speak. He's like, "Who is that? Somebody's walking in the room. Is that one of the nurses?" It's like fucking psychological as fuck, and it's like crazy. But
sounds
anyway,
like hell.
It's a movie that people should watch, because like it is the most effective anti-war movie I've like probably ever seen, honestly, because this is like a pure nightmare.
Still catching up on a few 2023 albums. I did one recently, and it was The Darker the Shadow, The Brighter the Light by The Streets. It's their second worst album.
Oh no.
It's
no.
almost worse than Computers and Blues to me.
Oh no.
I'm not kidding. Maybe you could find something to appreciate about it. I don't know. It's like offensively minimal, especially coming after None of Us Are Getting Out of This Life Alive.
That album was a banger. Holy shit.
It's so interesting, and like the sounds in each song like feel so different, like when you're listening to that album. But this one, every song feels the same. That album also had like a feature on every song. This one has like one feature, so the rest is just fucking Mike singing to himself with this goofy ass like minimal instrumental going on that feels like it doesn't really change up for the entire album, and it's really annoying. It was just like actually painful to sit through at times. You know, I mean, he's always been very back and forth, kind of. I'd like better than this. This is just really, I don't even know what the fuck this album was. Nothing really stood out to me in this album. Like maybe there were a few moments where I like bopped my head a little bit here and there, but like that's about it. Like the best I could give this right now is like a 2 out of 10.
Oh my god.
It's awful.
God damn it, Mike. I saw a little film called Sometimes I Think About Dying. And it was very, very good. I really enjoyed it. I hadn't really heard much about it beforehand. Like, I've seen, like, kind of stills here and there. Like, it stars Daisy Ridley, you know, from Star Wars. She was in Star Wars. And weirdos hate her because she was in Star Wars. But
I want to see her in more like that, because I think she is
series.
good, but she's not in enough.
She was...
really. Outside of
She was really, really great in this movie. She was like very, very good at like conveying a certain type of like depression and isolation, because ultimately that's what the movie is about. It's just like for the first half an hour of the movie, you're just like looking at her as she's just sitting there, staying quiet in like workplace situations and social situations, and you're like, damn, I've been there. I've been there. I know how it feels, Daisy. It's more kind of low key than a lot of movies I've seen recently, or even movies I've seen about depression. Like it's very subtle about it. I mean, I suppose not subtle in the way that it's like, oh yeah, this is kind of a facet of depression, but more subtle as in like it takes its time. It's very slow paced, and for a 90-minute movie, it does feel like it is 90 minutes, but it never feels like it slogs or anything. It reinforces my hatred of millennials, because there's a lot of millennial stuff in the movie, and I'm just like, man, I want to kill those millennials. There's a scene where they play like a murder party game, where like, you know, someone's playing like the killer or something, and they're going around and they're killing people, and I was like, that was almost unbearable to watch. Yeah. But in a good way. It was unbearable to watch in like the way where I was like, oh, I love watching this just because of how awful it is. No, yeah, it's a really good little movie. I found it to be more relatable than I thought I would, and Daisy Ridley was fantastic. The co-star of the movie, David Merheje, I think that's how you pronounce his name, he was also really, really good in it. Good little film. I'd highly recommend it. I torrented it. I don't know where else you'd find it right now. It seems only to be like available on like VOD and stuff, but if you can find the means to, I'd say do give it a watch. It's only 90 minutes. It's pretty good. I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
I want to see that.
I just don't get the hate for Daisy Ridley. I get the hate
She
for
was
the
in The
character
Last
Ray,
Jedi,
but not for
Quinn.
her.
That's why we hate her. But she is a very talented actress, and I want to see her do a lot more.
She just needs to get away from Star Wars and do smaller stuff, do other stuff.
Oh wait, no, she's in another Star Wars movie actually. They announced that.
Yeah, I thought they were like carrying forward her character, but anyway, this is a whole
God.
other thing.
Star Wars never ends. It just keeps
It
going.
never ends. It's gonna
Nothing
keep going
ever
till
ends
it's gonna outlive us
It's
all.
totally homogenized to the point where it's just, I don't care anymore.
For my last one, I am gonna cheat and I'm gonna lump these two movies together because I don't have much to say about the first one, and they go directly hand in hand.
Illegal.
I mean, because this is the one I don't have much to say about. I did watch Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey on Peacock, and it was so bad it's good. Like that movie, it's not very good, but I had a lot of fun with it. It's so goofy, very dumb, fun slasher movie, very low budget, fun. Like some of the kills are like legitimately pretty good. Like the kills, I was surprised. Like there was a couple ones I was like, damn, like that was actually creative and looked good. Yeah, I mean overall, it's not a great movie. That the performances are terrible. That's what tanks a lot of the movie is the performances. But on the other hand, last night I drove 40 minutes out of town to go see the sequel, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. I'm not even kidding. Like, that was legitimately good. Like, this movie. Like,
I don't believe you.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
What? You do? Yeah, nobody. And that's the sad part. That's the sad part is that nobody's gonna believe it because this is a movie that is gonna be overshadowed by the infamy of its fucking predecessor. Like, people are gonna think Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, think it's just trash. But
well, look at the title alone. They can't take that seriously,
I know.
really.
I know, but like this is a case to where I feel like they truly listened to the criticisms of the first movie, and they had like 5 times the budget, so they had like $500,000 for this movie, and which doesn't sound like very much, but for a low budget horror movie, they actually made it work, and it shows.
Wasn't Terrifier 2 cheaper?
I don't know. I'm not sure how much they did, but I'm glad you brought up Terrifier because that is like I would liken this to Terrifier in terms of like everyone thought Terrifier 1 was trash. It was low budget, bad acting, trash. I mean, I like Terrifier 1, but a lot of people think that about it. And then Terrifier 2 completely fucking just like upped the quality to everyone's surprise. And I would liken it to this situation too. Like they just stepped
Would
it
you
up.
liken it to The Dark Knight? It's an
What the
improvement
fuck
on
you
its
on about, you?
predecessor.
Well, I guess if we're literally just talking sequels better than the first one, then yeah, like this is definitely a sequel way better than the first one. So yeah, kind of like The Dark Knight, Dark Knight of our generation, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. But
Oh my
no,
god,
like,
Art the Clown versus Winnie the Pooh.
Versus the Joker.
dude, speaking of in production, like they had a little featurette interview like before the movie with the producers or director, whoever, and they were going on about how you guys are gonna think this is so dumb, but I'm looking forward to it because of I know how fun these movies are.
I was going to bring this up.
They are doing this thing, and I'm not even kidding. It's called the Poohniverse. It's a fucking cinematic universe of these childhood like characters like Pinocchio, Bambi, Peter Pan, and of which apparently are all public domain. I'm guessing because that's the only way they could do this.
Yeah, there.
And they are putting a horror spin on it, and they're eventually gonna have them all together in a fucking movie going after people. I'm not even kidding. And it sounds dumb, but I'm excited.
3 years from now, you're going to be on this podcast and you're going to be like, I'm so sick of the
No.
Poohniverse.
No, Liam. There's 3 Poohniverse movies coming out this year, and their Avengers type movie is coming out next year.
Can't wait to not
Oh
watch
yeah,
them.
they are doing it that quickly. Yeah.
But like, listen to some of these titles, man. Like fucking Bambi the
Pinocchio
Reckoning,
Unstrung.
Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, and then all culminates in Poohniverse, Monsters Assemble.
It's gonna be so much fun. It's gonna be, I don't care. It's just it's the perfect, they're nailing the perfect type of like dumb fun that I need and want out of like a horror cinematic universe.
There's
doesn't
no
take
way
itself
all of
too
them get
seriously.
theater releases.
Probably not, but I mean, maybe the big team up movie will. That hopefully will at least get
Be
a,
just like Endgame, I'm
cinematic.
sure.
Shot for
Yeah.
IMAX.
But even this movie, I was surprised got a theater release because, like, I think this only got a limited time theater release. It was only 3 days. It was just such a fun theater experience.
I've heard that the line, "It's Pooh in time" is apparently actually in the movie.
It is, but it's
In the
not-
second one?
Yeah.
It is. You'd have to know the context where, like,
No,
it's
we
not.
don't.
No, it's a movie within a. So they kind of get around the first movie by making it a movie within the movie, to where, like, there's a kid watching the first Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey on a TV screen in the living room of this movie. So, like, they kind of make fun of the first movie in this because they know it's bad, and then that's when they threw the Pooh in Time thing in that movie, even though it wasn't originally in the first movie, but they just added it in.
So, like, Human Centipede 2? That one's about, like, a guy who gets inspired by the first Human Centipede movie.
Oh, so yeah, kind of like that. Or like how in Halloween 3 went on the TV, then they show Halloween 1,
they're playing Halloween.
Yeah. Like I said, they stepped it up in every area. The costumes were 10 times better. The kills were way better. The performances, the main actor they got to replace the same character in the last movie, Christopher Robin. They replaced the main actor, which, thank God. The guy in the first movie was terrible. He was just an awful actor. This guy is, like, truly a good actor. Like, he's almost too good for this movie, and he looks like just like Barry Keoghan. Like, he looks just like fucking Barry Keoghan. Honestly, a really good actor. And yeah, just everything was stepped up. The only criticism I still have is that a lot of the soundtrack and a lot of the horror aspects of the soundtrack, like when somebody's getting chased or something, it is like really generic stock horror music, and that takes me out of it a bit. I still had a lot of fun with it. I can't wait for these insane sequels. So I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Like, I thought it was honestly great.
I actually finished a miniseries, another one. I finished The Queen's Gambit. Fucking great. I loved it a lot. Not totally perfect for me right now yet, but the actual scenes with chess in them, like, feel like they're more fast-paced, kind of, and they go by pretty quickly, except for the ones where it's, like, really intense and it, like, locks in and shit. But that's not the most interesting part of the show. It's definitely Anya Taylor-Joy's character and all that, because she is, like, phenomenal in this, like, truly, and ridiculously sexy, by the way.
Ooh.
I loved the character of Alma. I thought she was, like, a really beautiful character, and Harry Melling's amazing in it. Bill Camp is great.
4 years. How has it been 4 years since I came out?
Every now and then I'll see, like, a still of Thomas Brody Sangster in it with his, like, little mustache, and people are just saying he looks like a 12-year-old boy with a print-on mustache, a stick-on mustache.
Well, I was watching this with Julia because she had, like, seen it before and stuff, and she's in love with his character, and I don't get it. He's good in it, but he's just, like, kind of douchey at times, and I don't really get the love for him, but okay. I loved Beth and Alma's relationship throughout the show and stuff, and how it plays into some of the episodes that come later on. It's just really, really well explored. I had some problems with the way that the whole storyline with her mother is explored in the series. It's kind of like you're just given these little tidbits, like, throughout episodes, and then it doesn't really feel like the conclusion is that satisfying by the end of it. That's, like, really the only big criticism I have about it at the moment. Everything else was just great, and it's so well presented, and the score is beautiful. It's just, like, a really great miniseries. It's only 7 episodes. I really enjoyed it a lot.
The only other really big film I really want to talk about, I watched a film called Bamboozled by Spike Lee, and it was fucking fantastic. Holy shit, it floored me. It fucking floored me. It's so angry, has a point to make, and it just fucking goes for it. It's funny to a point where, like, you almost feel bad for finding it funny. is probably the best way I'd describe it. The film is about a modern day minstrel show. Yeah, it was a really racist show that was done back in, like, the 1800s, 1900s. But so they do a modern day version of that for TV, and it becomes a smash hit. And so it's just following that show and how kind of Hollywood looks at black actors. And it's kind of like a thing of, like, okay, we're better than what we once were, but is it still enough? That sort of thing. It's very tonally weird. Like, it has a very sudden shift in the last 45 minutes or so, which I am a fan of. And Damon Wayans is in it, you know, one of the Wayans brothers. And he puts on the funniest fucking voice I've ever heard. He's doing, like, a very nerdy white voice for, like, the entire movie. And in the more serious scenes, it doesn't really work. Like, there's going to be this deadly serious scene, and he's talking like he's a fucking white guy, and it's just like, man, I'd like to take this seriously, but it's so funny. You're, like, your voice, man, come on. I'd highly recommend it. It's quite underseen in terms of, like, Spike Lee movies, but he has, like, a lot of movies that are, like,
he has so many
no one's really seen. it's kind of a hurdle to get over at first because it's shot with like a consumer grade camera. It's one of the earliest like digitally shot films that I can think of. But there's some scenes where it uses 16mm and it looks very good. And it has a point in switching camera formats, which I always like that in a movie when they use different kind of formats to enhance the vibes a bit. But yeah, it's a very unique movie. I'd highly recommend it. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Well done, Spike Lee. This has been kind of on my mind for the past week, and it's kind of indicative of the state of movies these days. You guys have heard of Late Night with the Devil, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's come out recently that they've used AI images in it as part of
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
So there's
people review bombing that movie just because of that.
Yeah.
Like, people are giving it half stars just because they're so upset that, AI is used.
I can get behind that. Like, I wanted to see that movie, but I can totally get behind that.
The first time I heard about it, people were just saying, "Oh yeah, it's barely like 10 seconds of the movie. It's like 3 title cards, and they come up and they're very like, you won't think about them after the movie, that sort of thing." But someone pointed out that the fucking set dressing is AI. Like, that's one of the like AI images they use. Like, no, like there's like a graphic in the background for like the TV show of like the night owl or whatever, and that was AI generated. At one point, like, if we accept this, at one point do we say no? That's enough. No more fucking.
We
AI.
don't accept it. That's why we should be review bombing. To be honest,
exactly.
Like, I am all for that.
I feel the exact same, and it's kind of conflicting because like I've heard nothing but fantastic things about this, but also I don't think they should be using AI as a replacement for artists. Like, I have a very firm stance on that.
Yeah, no.
That's such a shame. I really wanted to see that.
I'll still probably see it, but that'll probably be like at the back of my mind the whole fucking time, which is a shame.
Probably people that would have their art put in that movie for free just to get their art on a movie. Like, you don't have to like pay a guy a bunch of money. You just like get
Everyone
somebody
just wants
to
to
do
be
it.
as lazy as possible now. It's fucking sad.
It is.
Yeah, like on the one hand, I do kind of empathize because it is kind of a small production, and I do kind of see the reasoning in using it. And it was a couple of years ago when talks about AI were lesser, and it wasn't as kind of more firm as we have now. Like, the whole fucking strikes last year were because of AI. And, well, not mainly because of AI, but it was part of it. I can kind of empathize there, but also it's not enough, I think. Like, I'm still going to watch the movie. I'm not going to pay for it. It's just like a little bit of a bummer for a movie that I've heard otherwise is fantastic, and I've wanted to see since I've heard about it.
I mean, it's a slippery slope, like, they're going to see how much they can use more and more of AI and people will accept it. And like, all people can do is boycott it and just not give money to it. And then if people stop watching it, but that's not going to happen because your average person doesn't care. But
I feel like what might happen at some point in the future is the way horror fans fetishize practical effects will start to fetishize movies with no AI. Like, it'll become that commonplace, I feel.
Oh, man. I hope it doesn't become that commonplace.
That sounds awful. I would kill myself.
It does
if
sound
that
awful.
society was real. That sounds horrible.
Main topic.
Okay, so so it was my pick last time, and I thought it would be a good idea to talk about the first 4 Hannibal Lecter films. So we have Manhunter, directed by Michael Mann. We have The Silence of the Lambs, directed by Jonathan Demme. Fucking Hannibal, directed by Ridley Scott, and we have Red Dragon, directed by Brett fucking Ratner.
At least there's 4 different directors. That's fun.
4 different and 4 like pretty big all of them are big directors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very different directors.
That's one thing I can say about all of them. They all feel almost like their own unique voice, and they're all their own unique take on the character of Hannibal. Well, not so much Manhunter, but the other 3, they do feel like a different take on Hannibal Lecter. Yeah, no, I think about these movies a lot, especially Manhunter and Silence of the Lambs. I think about them quite often, and I thought it would be a good idea to talk about them. Do you boys have a history with Hannibal Lecter, the cannibal?
Nope.
Quinn,
what about you?
I had not seen any of these movies before you suggested them, other than Silence of the Lambs. I've seen Silence of the Lambs, but I'm really glad I rewatched it this time, and I'm glad that I finally got to see all these movies. The series Hannibal with Mads Mikkelsen. That's the only thing I haven't seen. I will see it eventually, and I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I think he's a really interesting character. He's a cool character in horror.
I don't know, like, how do I intro this? It's like it's a big It's a big thing. Like, I mean, it all kind of started from the series for me, because it came out, I watched it back in 2013. Probably around the time that the second season was like finished was when I started watching the movies. I never watched Manhunter before. I only watched the other ones, reading Red Dragon and Hannibal, not Silence of the Lambs or Hannibal Rising, but I just became very, very obsessed with the character, and like all the characters, really. Just the whole world is really, really special to me. It's like still one of my all-time favorite things ever, so I have a lot of attachment to all this.
Manhunter. When the fuck did Manhunter come out? I think it was 1986.
Yeah.
I am
1986.
totally correct on that. Manhunter is directed by Michael Mann. Michael Mann made Heat and Collateral, two fucking bangers, and he also made Manhunter. This was at a point in his career where, like, at this time I think Miami Vice was still coming out, which fucking changed TV forever. Like, we wouldn't have TV as it is today without Miami Vice. Thank you, Michael Mann. But Manhunter is an adaptation of Red Dragon, and it follows Will Graham as he's pulled back into the FBI to track down the Tooth Fairy. But the thing with Will Graham is he has a unique ability to see into the mind of a killer. Well, not see into the mind, but he can empathize with a killer, and that's the point of Will Graham's character, pretty much. And he's really cool.
He's probably my favorite character of all time.
I am a big fan of it. I think it's like being a Hannibal Red Dragon adaptation. It's not the closest you'd get. Like, fucking, we'll talk about Red Dragon later. That's a bit closer to the source material from what I've heard. This takes a few liberties, especially with like the ending. But I really, really love the neon-soaked visuals. I love the pacing of it. It's very slow. I love the procedural scenes. We'll get into all that, but I just love it. It's fucking immaculate vibes all around, honestly.
Also thoroughly enjoyed it, and this was my very first time ever watching it. And I have a really split feelings on Michael Mann. Like, half of the stuff I've seen from him, I actually don't care much for, but then there's other halves that fucking blow me away. Like, you know, Heat, Thief, and then this. So yeah, I mean, he's very hit or miss, but this is yeah, it has a style all over it. You know, you could just tell it's a Michael Mann thing, and it worked for me a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just has that perfect 80s, like that perfect 80s cop procedural kind of feel to it. Just with the soundtrack, with the visuals, like you said. And yeah, I mean, for me, the strongest aspect was like the performances, but I'm sure we'll get to that. But yeah, I mean, it fucking first time watch blew me away too, honestly. Like, I was surprised at how much I liked it. And I didn't even though it's slow, I did not really feel the length, honestly, that much. I was like kind of into it the whole time almost.
Like I said, I just love the vibes of it. I love the world that Michael Mann's created, and it kind of leans into his thing of like, he likes making movies about tortured men, and I think he was a good choice for the project. What's the look on your face, Liam?
I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
Which is totally fine, but I'm interested to hear why.
It's fine.
It's for two reasons. It is so style over substance to a fault, and two, it is very, very inaccurate. And as someone who has a lot of like attachment to like the source material and everything, like I've said, it's like the stuff that is from the books and all that like is there, but it's like little tidbits, like little, just, we're gonna take that and we're gonna put it in here where it doesn't really belong, but like, you know, we gotta fucking keep this. Like, it doesn't feel like there was any real passion for the source material in this, and it feels like completely the wrong director to me. It is like a 80s neon soaked cop procedural, and that's not what it should be, in my opinion.
I can get that.
That's like, my take.
I'm not familiar with the source material at all. Like, most of what I know from it would be from Red Dragon, and reading it online, that's the closest I would know from the source material. But I do enjoy what they did here, and the points in the book that they did adapt, I thought they did it very, very well. Like, if you even go from like when he goes into the house for the first time to look at the crime scene, I love that scene so much. Like, even just him coming in and that like shot of him coming through the back door with like the flashlight and stuff, and him just looking at the blood on the walls and talking to his tape recorder, I love that shit. Like,
probably one of the biggest issues I had with this was William Peterson. He is an awful choice for Will Graham.
You know, I like him in the movie, but I can see that. I can really see that. But I think
a little hammy at times.
He just is not. He's not suited to that character. He feels like way too energetic. There are moments in the movie as well where it feels like this kind of, by the books action mystery kind of thing or whatever, and things feel a little bit out of character to kind of play into that, but it doesn't really play into who Will Graham actually is. Like when he fucking shatters a car window, like attacking Freddie Lounds, like that is not Will Graham. He would not fucking do that. No. It's just very odd, like the way that they chose to approach that character in particular. That's like the main problem that I have with it.
I can totally see that, because like it is produced by Dino De Laurentiis, who is quite an infamous producer. He also forced David Lynch into doing Dune, so you can kind of it's he's a one of a kind producer. He's produced some absolute bangers, and he also came back to do, I think he produced Hannibal. I think he might have produced either Hannibal or Red Dragon, one of the two. Even in the title, it's deviated. Like, it's called Manhunter because Dino De Laurentiis had like a similar movie out before Manhunter that had dragon in the title, and in his mind he was like, oh yeah, if people see dragon in the title, they won't go see it. So they changed it to Manhunter. And even a smaller change, like changing Hannibal Lecter's name to have a K in it. Like, that's just a really fucking weird change,
Yeah, and it still doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense to me either.
What is
There
the
is no
explanation for that? Like, no, it seems like nobody knows.
In this movie, they go
knows.
hard with the K. Like, some of the people pronouncing Lecter in this movie, they say it like Lector.
I can respect all those criticisms, because like basically not being faithful to the source material, because I have criticized a lot of things for that same reason, and I haven't even read the books, I haven't read any of the books, unlike you guys. Like, all I know is
I haven't read the books.
Oh, I thought you said you at least read Dragon Online or something.
No, I didn't. I've read like bits about it online. So I just read about it to see how it matches up to like Red Dragon and Manhunter.
So if I was like attached to the source material and I watched this, I would probably be more critical on it too. But like, I think for me, I just went in completely with no expectations, no knowledge even. Like, all I knew is that Hannibal is a fucking cannibal. Like, that's all I know about this.
I went in very blind too. I didn't know that much about the movie beforehand.
I don't know. I guess the style just worked for me. But I can see how maybe people could see Michael Mann as being more style over substance at times. I can definitely get that.
That is a criticism he does get a lot.
Well, the style it's done well. Like, it looks good and it sounds
but
good.
I'm not sure if I'd completely agree it is kind of style over substance, because I do think there was a lot here that I really latched onto. Like, I really liked the way it dealt with fucking Tooth Fairy. What's his name again?
Francis Dollarhide.
Francis Dollarhide, yes, there we go. I really like all the stuff with him. I do really like the scenes of Will Graham just investigating stuff, and like even when he's just up in that tree and he's like trying to figure out like what the fuck Dollarhide was thinking when he was up in that tree, because like he sees go on.
What was with him like constantly doing those like recordings or whatever, and like consistently calling the guy a son of a bitch? And
I love that.
I thought that
it was
funny.
so annoying.
I actually to me that added to
so
it added a
stupid.
campy flavor to the movie. I was like, he's being hilarious right now, but it's like, I know he's being serious, but it comes off funny, and I kind of liked that.
But the thing with the tape recorder, like, I'm assuming Red Dragon is mostly like it's mostly written from the mind of Will Graham. I'm guessing the tape recorder is just it's just a way for them to get that kind of stuff in there without having narration, and I like that. I was going to say we should probably talk about like Hannibal, I suppose, the way he was done in this.
Two performances in particular that just like were incredible, I thought, was Hannibal himself, by Brian Cox, and then Tom Noonan. I thought both of them were just fucking awesome. I loved their performances.
I think Tom Noonan was the best.
Just so unsettling, so disturbing, and so like off-putting.
But even then, though, that's like the worst iteration of the Red Dragon story I've seen. But I mean, it's mostly just because of Joan Allen. I don't really think she does that great of a job of playing Reba, and Reba's like another really great character that I love. And
to be fair, like they did, the fucking they don't wrap up the story the way Red Dragon actually ends. That is a flaw with this movie, where like Reba is more of just like an object to move the story forward, if anything. She doesn't really have much of a character or much agency, but I do like the little scenes with her. She's a nothing character, really. Like, she's blind. That's all she is. Dollarhide likes her. And that's all.
Yeah.
That's all you. That's all you really get, unfortunately. Hannibal Lecter. How do we feel about his portrayal?
I love his portrayal. I thought it was like, I mean, first off, Brian Cox is just a great actor, but like, I mean, not to like spoil my thoughts for later, but like to me, like, you know, Anthony Hopkins will always be my Hannibal Lecter. I just think he's like perfect and amazing in that role. But like, what I do think Brian Cox, his Hannibal Lecter is almost more interesting because Anthony Hopkins' Hannibal Lecter, he's like so blatantly kind of like psychotic and like sociopathic, and like you could tell he's a psychopath. Brian Cox's is so much more subtle and like nonchalant, and like almost like he's like, you know, he comes off like a real person, you know, not just some psychopath, and I liked that about it.
Yeah, I love how subdued his performance is, and for like, yeah, this is the first time Hannibal Lecter's ever been on screen, and is by an actor that most people probably don't even know played him. And like Brian Cox is like bigger now than ever because of fucking Succession. Like he also has a bit of camp to him as well. Like when he calls the office and he's trying to get Will Graham's address.
I love
and he's
that
like,
part.
zip that little pointer down to the letter G. I just love that shit.
I know,
it's so
it's
funny.
just so like he's so charismatic. But like I said, those were like the two pillars of the fucking like performance wise that held up the movie for me. I was so like anytime both of them were on screen, not together obviously, but like Brian Cox or Tom Noonan, I was just locked in. I was like, these guys are amazing.
I feel like if Brian Cox had more of a chance to play Hannibal, I think he might be my favorite performance.
Spoilers for Manhunter.
The Inagata Davida needle drop is fucking, oh my
legendary.
god. I look, that's a complete departure from the book and a complete departure from the tone that the film sets up, but I fucking love it. It's so fucking over the top. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Like fucking Dollarhide coming out and just fucking shooting that guy with the shotgun. Holy shit, it was awesome.
When the music is building and Will Graham's like running to jump through the glass, I am like at peak, like that is my peak. I'm fucking hyped right now. I am like at peak euphoria watching that.
Thomas Harris rolling in his grave while fucking Will Graham busts through glass. I know, I wanted to be funny.
It still just goes back to style over substance for me. Like, that's all. I really feel like it's pretty heavy on that in my eyes. So a lot of things aren't really going to work for me like that when I'm not really enjoying the style.
I think my favorite scene in the movie is when they discovered Dollarhide's note to Hannibal. I really, really love that scene. I like how drawn out it is. I like the way it's shot, like when it's just like that guy coming up to the fucking receptionist. Was it? No, it wasn't fucking, what's his name? It wasn't Chilton, was it? Was that Chilton? He's reading the note and then he calls fucking Crawford. That shit, I love that shit. How fucking slow it plays out. How they start doing actual fucking like police procedural things, like when they're doing like the infrared on the toilet paper and shit. I just love that shit.
Yeah.
I love how it's played out. I love the scene after that as well when they're trying to catch Dollarhide, and then you get Will Graham fucking rugby tackling that fucking poor jogger on the street. I love that shit. And like I was talking about earlier, I do like the scenes between Reba and Dollarhide, even though, like we already discussed, Reba isn't really much of a character in this, but I do like the tiger scene. I do like their initial meeting in the red room, the photo developing room. I love that. I really like that shit. I really like that stuff. But after that, Reba's character does basically become nothing. It feels like the film doesn't really have... It doesn't really want much to do with her. It's more focused on, you know, kind of trying to portray Dollarhide as a psychopath. Because I'm not really sure how I feel about the scene where he kills the guy who he thinks was kissing Reba either. I think that's the only scene in the movie where I was like, I'm not sure about that. But then that directly follows into the ending.
It just added to him being a psychopath to me.
We were talking about Tom Noonan. Yeah, he was fucking phenomenal. Like, another one of my favorite scenes
naturally
in the movie is...
off-putting. He's just a naturally off-putting guy, so it made sense for him to be in this, you know.
He's abnormally tall. He is stupidly tall.
Really tall. I think the only thing I remember seeing him in was Ty West's House of the Devil, and he's just creepy as hell.
Oh, he's great. He's great in House of the Devil.
And so like he is probably the best part of that movie for me. And then so yeah, it's just he's just naturally creepy, and I thought it really worked. Dude, I also got to say I did not recognize Stephen Lang.
Yeah.
I did not recognize, because I'm so used to seeing Stephen Lang as an old guy these days.
Stephen Lang was awful.
His performance, I didn't care. I hated the character. I really hated the character. I mean, you're probably supposed to.
But I do really love the scene where he does kidnap Freddie Lounds. I thought that scene was fucking creepy as hell and so fucking tense. I love that shit.
Too.
And the way it does the flaming wheelchair death, I fucking love that shit. It's so
Over
fucking...
the top and crazy.
It's so
It
cool.
was done terribly.
Oh, it was so cool.
was.
Like the wheelchair speeding down the ramp. Oh,
Wheelchair
I love
on
that.
fire.
Yeah, but it's like such a quick kind of flash cut when it like comes up, and it
Yeah.
just does this little weird like jump scare moment.
It is like a little bit of a jump scare, but I do enjoy it. It does look a bit wonky, to be
Yeah,
fair,
I mean-
but for its purpose there, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Also, I do really like the guy who played Crawford. He is so fucking cool.
He is really
is
good.
good.
I did like him.
He
He's
looks
just
really
like
fucking
he
cool.
looks just like a fucking quintessential 80s actor, you know, the mustache and the way he talks.
Yeah.
It's like that guy embodies the 80s right there.
Oh, yeah.
Overall, I liked it a lot. It was a blind. I went in blind, had no expectations, and it surprisingly blew me away. I really liked it. Only having knowledge of the movie, obviously, I didn't know what to expect. So, 9 out of 10. I'm gonna give it a fucking 9. It was great.
I'm right there with you. I'd also give it a 9 out of 10, but I'm not gonna lie, it's very, very close to a 10. It is so close to a 10, but I just can't get it there. I just can't get it there.
Yeah.
A 9 feels just right
fitting.
for this. I really loved it. Least favorite Michael Mann movie from what I've seen, but I still really, really adore it. Go on.
I don't know. I'm between a 3 and a 4.
Oh my god.
It really does nothing for me, aside from the style and some moments that were kind of well done in respect to the material. But it's like, it just doesn't do
Yeah.
much for me.
Moving on to The Silence of the Lambs. Probably one of the most critically acclaimed films of all time. Came out in 1991, directed by Jonathan Demme. You might know him from films such as Philadelphia and Stop Making Sense. He's a one-of-a-kind director, and they picked him to do Silence of the Lambs for some reason, and I think it worked out very, very well. But yeah, so Silence of the Lambs, it's about Clarice Starling. New protagonist is not Will Graham. But yeah, she's a top student at the FBI, and Crawford calls her in to interview Hannibal Lecter to get more information on Buffalo Bill and to see if they can, track him down, crack the case. It is a good fucking movie. I think that's kind of a
Yeah, it is.
controversial opinion, but it's pretty fucking good. Not gonna lie.
It's a hot take. Only second time watching it for the podcast. Yeah, I had only seen it one time before doing this, and honestly, my first time, I didn't really quite see the big deal. And so I love when movies can prove me wrong completely on the second watch, because I feel like this movie has so many people have such a misconception about it, the people that don't really know what they're getting into, because they see Silence of the Lambs, they think, oh, it's one of the biggest, such a scary horror movie, they see creepy Anthony Hopkins, and I think people go into it with the notion that Anthony Hopkins is going to be this serial killer going around doing this shit, and that's really not what it is at all. I'm talking about people that aren't familiar at all with the source material, because this is a huge movie, and
It was fucking massive.
And growing up, I would always see the poster, and I would always hear growing up I would hear the title Silence of the Lambs, and I'm like, oh my god, that sounds creepy, what the fuck is this movie about? And then finally, as an adult watching it, then I go in and it's an entirely different movie than I anticipated. And I think my first time watching that really went against the enjoyment for me, because I think I was just expecting something else, but it just, complete 180 turn. I enjoyed it so much more. This has some of the best performances I've ever seen in film, not even just from Anthony Hopkins, but we'll get to the other ones. And I just loved every second of it. I loved it. The dialogue, the performances.
I've seen this a couple of times, and I'm pretty confident at this point in saying it's one of my absolute favorite films of all time. I think it's probably top 20 at least. I love it. I was going to watch it again. I wanted to watch it again before we did this podcast, because I just couldn't stop thinking about it. There's so much shit in it that I'm just fucking obsessed with. Mm-hmm. And it just does a lot for me. It does so fucking much for me, and I'm so happy it exists, and it just strengthens my love for Jonathan Demme more, even though I still have to fucking watch a lot more from him. But fucking hell, this movie is fucking directed so fucking well. It is so strong, And I think you're right with like the horror thing. Probably the only horror film to ever win Best Picture, which is interesting. It won Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, I think it won Best Screenplay and Best Director as well.
It won the Big Five.
Which is
the Big Five awards.
Yeah.
All five. And I think it totally deserves it. I think it nailed every area.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it just, and that's the thing is that, like, yeah, the Academy, like, looks down on horror movies, but even though this is technically a horror movie, and this is another reason I didn't maybe love it my first time like I do now, is that I mean, I didn't find it scary at all, but I don't think that's the point, I guess. Like, I mean, and that's subjective. Like, it's not a typical horror movie. It's unsettling, it's psychological, but it's not like in your face horror. You know, it's almost more of like a thriller, drama, you know.
It is quite in your face.
Well, I mean,
in your face.
Yeah, that's true with some of the close-ups.
Christ.
But but I didn't think it was like shoving it down your throat like, this is fucking scary, look at this, you know. I thought it was just like, I mean, it literally has close-ups.
It's very like subtle with its horror. And
yeah,
it
I
does
think
a
it's
good job.
subtle. A lot of things are implied, you know, like a lot of the horror, like, you know, in the beginning when that guy that runs that psychiatric ward and he was walking Clarice down to Hannibal Lecter, he was just telling her
Chilton.
like all the fucked up things that he did. You know, he's not like showing pictures. He's just like, you know, talking about how he ate somebody's face off and like describing it in great detail. And that's the horror I love, is that like, just put the images in my head. You don't need to show me them, but like describe messed up things to me. And that's, my mind can come up with something 10 times worse.
Well,
than
Chilton
whatever you
loves
can show
doing
me.
that shit because he's a little fucking weasel. Chilton is perfectly cast in this.
He's a total fucking weasel. What's his name? Anthony Heald, I think his name. Oh, he's fantastic.
He's just such a like pathetic character. He's such a he has like, on a power trip. This fucking like guy.
I don't know
like,
if you want to
he's
look
such a
up his
pathetic-
counterpart in Hannibal, but his name's Raul Esparza. He plays it really well as well, but he's like another little kind of Weasley looking guy.
Oh yeah, I'd punch the shit out of that dude.
He does it well though. But that also
Yeah.
kind of brings me to another point. One casting that I found completely wrong was Jack Crawford. And I know a lot of people like Scott Glenn.
Yeah.
A lot of people do like Scott Glenn
I-
in this movie, and I can totally see it, but he is really, really surface level in this, so it's kind of hard to see him as that character.
I would agree with you in that, like, even compared to like Manhunter and Red Dragon, like Harvey Keitel and Dennis Farina, I think
Every other
they're-
version is better than this one, in my opinion.
Yeah, but in this, it's more pointedly from the point of view of Clarice, and I think ultimately the movie is all about her overcoming, like, you know.
Oh yeah, Jack's not like the focus of it or anything.
Yeah,
like,
he's not the focus of the movie.
there's a
and
reason he's like
it's
that,
all more
so I get it.
Yeah, it's more to do with her, like, overcoming all the men who are like doubting her, and like the film does like a very good job of like capturing that like fucking sense of wanting to be the best, I suppose. Because in every scene, every man is like fucking 6 foot tall, and then you have like Jodie Foster who's just like 5'2" or some shit.
My
It's
favorite
fucking...
shot, my favorite example of that, because they set the tone, they set
The
that
elevator?
idea. Yeah, the elevator. Just a simple, that elevator shot. She's like all sweaty, she's tired, like she's in fucking like sweat joggers, and then you have all these tall like fucking FBI agents just hovering around her, and she looks so vulnerable, like she looks so out of place, and they just nail that so well. And it's like, it just sets the tone for like, I can tell this is a strong character even though she doesn't appearance wise come off that way. So I love that.
I guarantee if this film came out today, like, people would be freaking out about it, because my god, this does not like it doesn't pull any punches in terms of like, you know, it's kind of critique of like men in power and stuff, and it's all for Clarice Starling's point of view, because she is a very, very fucking strong character. Like, she might be like one of my favorite characters of all time in this iteration. I think Jodie Foster is fucking phenomenal in the role. I can't even think of a point where I can think of a performance that she's done that's like as good as this. Like, she's just so into this role. She transforms effortlessly into it. I
easily
love
my
the way
favorite
she
part of the
delivers her
movie.
dialogue.
Yeah,
She is wonderful. And I think it's just perfect casting, especially with how like short she is. But like, then you'd have to cast everyone else to be much fucking taller than her.
Just get Tom Noonan back in there.
Oh my god.
That would be something. Yeah, I mean, you cannot skip over fucking Buffalo Bill. Like, this guy, I don't know how to put words into his character, but he's like unlike anything I've seen in terms of villains on screen. Like, he is such a weird, complex fucking character.
And it could have been done better, but like, it was the 90s, like, what can you do? I think Jonathan Demme's even come out and been like because there was like anti-homophobia protests around this movie as well. Yeah. And Jonathan Demme came out and he was like, you know what, I wasn't thinking that when I made the movie, but fucking go for it. I kind of agree with you. I could have done this a bit better. But as it is, I do think Buffalo Bill, his performance especially, I thought was fucking fantastic. Like, what's his name again? Fucking
Ted Levine.
He's been in a bunch of shit. Ted Levine.
Ted Levine.
He is really fucking good. He is so good in this. I really love him in it.
I guess I just don't really find Buffalo Bill to be that interesting of a character. You know, if you're comparing it to Red Dragon, like, you know, it's like Clarice going to Hannibal, Will Graham going to Hannibal, but like when talking about like the Red Dragon and stuff, the conversations around it like feel so much more interesting because the character is really interesting in the way that he does everything. But Buffalo Bill is just kind of, he feels like sloppy. Like, I mean, he's at the point kind of in the movie and they talk about it that he's like starting to get a little bit sloppy with his shit. So it's like, you don't really see him as like super intimidating right away because like you have that knowledge.
I think the film treats Hannibal more as its antagonist more than anything. Yeah. I think like you see him do way more fucked up shit than Buffalo Bill.
Yeah.
And I think Buffalo Bill is almost kind of, he's almost secondary to it because the main focus of the movie is Claire Starling.
Buffalo Bill is just the catalyst to get things going. That he's just like, he's just a piece of the puzzle. Like, he's not the main point of the movie, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Hannibal's far more interesting in this.
Yeah, Hannibal's a more interesting
absolutely
guy to watch. But I still found Buffalo Bill interesting just in terms of like just the way that he treats his victims, you know, because like you can tell he's not like, to me it'd be more boring if he was just a complete sociopath and like he had no empathy. But this guy, it's like you can tell he's like split to where he has like, he's really conflicted on what he's doing. You know, to the point where, like, as soon as he starts seeing, like, that girl, it's not barely spoiling it, the girl that he has captured.
I mean, it's the most famous scene from the movie.
Yeah, put the lotion in the basket. Like, I love that shit. And it's, to me, seeing this, like, fucking serial killer, like, almost not like what he's doing, it's just, to me, that's interesting. To me, it's something you don't see very often in these, like, psychotic characters, so I liked that.
Spoilers for Silence of the Lambs.
Like, when he gets his dog, like, stolen from him, then his performance becomes a lot more interesting to me. Because he kind of realizes, like, oh, wait a minute, I have kind of been fucking lazy. Yeah, he gets, like, more panicky and stuff, and it, like, you see, like, little instances of, like, who he really is, like, underneath it, feels like. And those moments were really interesting to me.
Like the put the lotion in the basket scene, like the way he's like peeking over the well, it's almost like he doesn't really want to deal with it. Obviously the lotion is to keep the skin like in perfect condition because, you know, his whole thing is he wants to make a skin suit basically,
which is just the idea of that is so disturbing in itself too.
Like, it's pretty cool.
That's another reason I think he's an interesting villain.
Based on a real serial killer. I think it's an amalgamation of Ted Bundy and someone else. Like Ted Bundy in the way that he traps his victims, like when he with the armchair, like that's how Ted Bundy used to capture his victims. I can't remember the other one, but there was a serial killer who did make a skin suit. I can't remember who the fuck it was, but it's one of the famous ones. Hannibal, we haven't really talked much about him or his scenes. Like they are easily some of the highlights of the film.
Anytime Anthony Hopkins is on screen talking, giving his monologues, like I am just completely locked in. Like there's nothing else in the world I'm paying attention on other than that. Like I am just glued to the screen. It's incredible. Like I put his performance as Hannibal Lecter up there. Like to me it's almost tied with like Heath Ledger's Joker, and that's something I thought I'd never say. Like I love it so much. It's just such an amazing iconic performance.
He is fantastic.
And compared to Manhunter, it does, I mean, obviously you don't have much time with him in Manhunter, but it does it does bring up some essential elements to his character, like his manipulative nature, like with the guy who's in the cell next to him, he makes him swallow his own tongue, like shit like that. What an introduction for a character, like just the POV shot of Clarice walking down Oh
Yeah.
my god, it's fantastic.
Because it's like it's
then just
building
seeing
up
him
and
just
you
standing
think,
there.
yeah, like you don't know what you're about to expect. It's building and building, and then you just see Anthony Hopkins just standing there, just have a creepy smile. It's just like so subtle, so perfect. God, it's just so good.
And he
like
doesn't blink once the entire movie. Oh my god.
Does he really not? I actually didn't know that. The use of close-ups, like I can see how maybe it wouldn't work for everybody, but like I thought the use of close-ups was perfect because like that is the point, I feel like, of these conversations almost.
It became a bit too much for me sometimes. Sometimes I was like, you don't need a close-up right here, come on. One scene later on where she's like talking to that friend that we never see for the entire movie, and then all of a sudden they have a scene together and they talk.
Yeah.
But like that scene was like a lot of back and forth close-ups and like straight shots, and I was like, what? This looks weird.
I think it became a very stylistic choice at a certain point. Like it definitely did. I think it could have just stayed between Hannibal and Clarice for those. That would have been fine. But
yeah,
the whole claustrophobic vibe this film has, I love it so much. It is so fucking perfect. Even when they're doing the examination of that dead body, when she's like in the room full of like the FBI men, and there's that POV shot of like all the men, they're like fucking filling the frame almost, and she's asking them to get out of the room. Oh my, I love that shit.
The entire
I love that shit so much.
Dissection scene is fucking hard to watch. Like,
yeah,
and it goes on for so long. And like, I really love that you don't like see the body for a while. It's just like looking at everyone's reactions and like micro reactions and stuff. It's like,
and they're putting that stuff under their nose because like you could just tell like that room has to smell terrible. Like,
it's gross, but it's so well done.
It is.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the the best edits in film history, one of the fucking most influential edits in film history. The fake out at the end when the FBI storm Buffalo Bill's house.
Yes.
My god.
That was so good.
Insane fucking filmmaking where they're just fucking ganging up outside and then you fucking... It's so well done. It is probably one of the fucking best edits in film history.
It is.
And apparently it wasn't even intentional. It was just like... Yeah, we just kind of did it this way. We thought it'd be fun to do.
It's like it's
they
just
weren't really
perfect
trying
suspense.
anything, but
yeah, no, it's so good because then once you realize that Clarice is alone with Buffalo Bill, you're so like worried for her character. I feel like you're so like on edge, like oh shit, like she's there and like she's alone, and the way it built up was it was just perfect.
And the whole ensuing scene, the fucking night vision scene. Oh my god,
it's such a creative way to like end a confrontation like between them. Was like all of a sudden like the unexpected switch to his POV, and all of a sudden like it's just it was very. I thought that was just so unique, like such a unique way to tackle that.
Anytime I watch that scene, my heart is pounding. It is so fucking good. Like even at the end when she finally kills Buffalo Bill, the fucking POV shot of him holding the gun out and then pulling the hammer back. Oh, it's so good. Oh
yeah.
The kind of fake out towards the end where it turns out Hannibal's actually in the ambulance.
Oh yes, that whole sequence.
It's
my god,
very well
Also
done, but
love
it's like he didn't even like look at his face properly.
It was made to look like his face was kind of eaten up or beaten up and shit. Like you couldn't like blood was just covering the whole.
That's
but like
fair.
if he took more than just like a second glance at him or whatever, then he'd be like, oh, that's a mask.
Hold on a second. Hannibal,
you little rascal.
Hannibal. The way he leans up and then turns around and pulls the fucking thing off, and the music, I'm just like,
that whole scene is
insane.
very cool.
This is epic. Yeah.
I love the music in that scene too.
like even leading up to that, like his last conversation with Clarice is that fucking scene is amazing.
Man, and you gotta mention the iconic like last words, like I'm having an old friend for dinner. Like it's just
Oh, that's goofy as
perfect.
fuck. It's amazing.
It's amazing though. I'm confident in saying it entered my current top 10 movies of all time. Like I loved it that much. I just can't think of anything bad about it. So obviously 10 out of 10 from me.
Fat fucking 10 out of 10. Like I said, it is probably also in my top 20 at least right now. Can't think of much flaws. I just get something new out of it every time I watch it, and I could easily watch it. I've seen it like 4 times. I could easily watch it again. It feels like something that's just going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life, that sort of thing.
I would give Silence of the Lambs a 7 out of 10. Sorry.
You piece of shit. How
Why
dare you?
Everyone's shitting on me for giving it
I'm
a
joking.
positive
I'm joking.
Hey, we're all positive. This is the one movie I think we're all going to be agreeing that's positive. So
Yeah, yikes.
10 years later, they made a sequel to Silence of the Lambs. A direct sequel, unlike Manhunter. They made Hannibal, directed by Ridley Scott, of all fucking people.
Fuck yeah, my man.
They got Anthony Hopkins back, but they didn't manage to get anyone else back. We've recast Clarice. It's now Julianne Moore instead of Jodie Foster. Jonathan Demme didn't want to come back, so they got, they had to, kind of go into the slums a bit with fucking Ridley Scott, a lesser known director. Yeah, so Hannibal picks up 10 years after Silence of the Lambs. Clarice Starling is an official FBI agent now. She's highly respected. At the start of the movie, she gets into a bit of a predicament. She's now disgraced, and she's contacted by Hannibal Lecter once again.
There are 2 scenes in this movie that I genuinely wished could be abolished from all of cinema. Every avenue, I want it gone forever.
Yeah, me too.
I bet I know one of them.
One of them's the opening chase shootout scene.
Oh, that was awful.
The shootout scene is unbelievably bad, and fucking Julianne Moore waterboards a baby.
Yeah, that's so weird.
So
Where
out of
did
place.
that come from?
It's just such a terrible tone to set the movie with.
But there's another scene also. I won't get into details or anything right now. But Julianne Moore is tracking Hannibal in a certain scene, and it goes on for a while. It's in a shopping mall or something.
Oh,
it just goes on for ages, and I hated
I thought you were
it.
going to say a different scene.
You've read the book, and you've been to Florence, where half of this movie takes place.
Right. So I can tell, it's fair to say that I don't think neither me or Keelan are nearly as in touch or attached, in terms of I only know the movie. I don't know the book. So if I criticize things that it is included in the book, then sorry, but I just only know the movie.
It's all art. It's subject to criticism.
Yeah. The reason Demi and fucking Jodie Foster didn't come back is because they didn't like the book. They didn't think the book was as strong as Silence of the Lambs, and that's why they didn't come back for it. Look, there are things I like about this movie, and I'll probably have to get into spoilers for most of it, but as a whole, it's just a fucking slog. Holy shit, it feels so long. I watched this for the first time 3 years ago when I was going through a little Hannibal phase, and I fully intended on watching the show, but I only ended up watching 2 episodes. But I forgot half of this movie. I forgot most things that happen apart from in the last half an hour or so.
Yeah.
Because that's probably the most interesting part of the movie overall. Everything else, it's just look, Julianne Moore, I think she's a phenomenal actress, but I don't like her Clarice at all.
Me neither.
I do not like her Clarice at all.
I didn't like the accent, the little southern twang she tried to do. It's just, she's not Jodie Foster. It's just not as
She's probably one of the worst things about the movie for me.
Look, it's a different story. Clarice was more pointedly a character in Silence of the Lambs, but in this one, she just feels like a generic FBI agent.
She does not have the time to showcase the depth of the character at all. It's really not something that's focused on her as much.
She's pretty much out of the movie for half of it.
Speaking of being out of the movie, I know the movie's called Hannibal, but there were moments to where I actually wanted more Hannibal, because there's a large chunk of the movie to where we're not focusing on him. At least it felt like. This whole movie's kind of just
on that Italian fucker.
Yeah,
hey, I'm not gonna accept it. I'm not gonna accept it. I like that guy.
Sorry, what about art being subject to criticism?
Okay.
The things that held the movie down for me was focusing so much on that guy and that storyline.
I do like some of the stuff in Florence, but that whole scene where they're tailing Hannibal, when he hires the guy on the street to fucking track him down, it is so boring. I see what they're doing there, but it's just, there's no tension. You can almost see it in your mind how it's going to play out, because you know the character of Hannibal, and this guy is just some guy who's just been paid on the street to do a job. It's not going to end well,
Yeah.
And you can even when, he's doing the tailing, you can kind of tell when they're going to switch sides and all that. It's really predictable and really boring.
I think I have a comparison I can make, which could probably explain why I enjoy this a bit more. Manhunter is style over substance. I think this one can be at times, and the style is something that really works for me.
I honestly thought this movie was so bland. That was just me, though.
It kind of has it's the brightness is turned up to the extreme on it, and even then some scenes are detrimentally dark. The tailing scene I was talking about, you can hardly see shit in it. But Mason Verger's face, it's pure white every time you see it. It's so weird. There's you can barely see much detail on his face.
No, there's red marks and stuff, and
I didn't notice any of that.
I don't know. It's eating bland plain oatmeal. That's what it felt like. I was just this is tasteless. But I don't know.
Can we give our opinions on Mason Verger's story? Because I'd really like to hear them.
All right.
Spoilers for Hannibal.
2001, not the show.
2001.
I know Mason Verger is in Hannibal, the show.
Yes.
And I'm sure if I saw him done in that, I would be more interested in his character, because the snippets that are here, he does make for an interesting villain. There's not really much... He doesn't really feel like a villain for half the movie, you know?
Well, he's not really...
It's weird. Like, he has...
He's not really a villain, I guess. I mean, like, not...
I mean,
not
he's
for this...
kind of a fucking monster. But...
He is, but, like, not for this movie. He's not, like, the main focus or anything.
I do really like the scene where he's talking about what he's done in his past, like, at the very beginning. I do think that's an engaging scene, and I think it's mainly down to Gary Oldman's performance. I think he's pretty good in this. Whenever I get around to watching the show, I feel like I'll like Mason Verger more as a character. Not like him, but like...
No, he's a piece of
like
shit.
him as a villain. Yeah, exactly. No shit.
There's some truly, like, cool, like, little moments, but they're just significantly overshadowed by a lot of stuff I didn't like, and so it makes it hard to remember the moments I did, to be honest. I went in expecting it to be entirely around Hannibal, because I mean that's what the title gives me, and so like I wanted it more focused on directly on him and Clarice.
Sorry, speaking of Anthony Hopkins, this is at the point in the films where like I start to become kind of tired of Hannibal as a character, because in this it starts to feel like he's becoming a slasher villain more than anything, and I don't like that at all. It detracts from what I like about Hannibal as a character, even though I do really like when he kills the Italian cop. That kill was really cool.
That kill's fucking
really
awesome.
fucking cool.
It's so good.
That was good. I like that.
And that even that scene where he's just talking to Clarice on the phone, I thought that was pretty good. That's like probably my favorite scene in the movie, where like, you know, she calls the Italian guy and he answers and he says, "Oh, hello, Clarice."
To me, this just felt like a different Hannibal entirely. It almost felt like a different character to me. I did not see the Hannibal Anthony Hopkins I really came to enjoy watching. It was just kind of like, and maybe that's the point, like, as this is set, you know, I mean, maybe his character will be different after so many years, but like, just even him alone, and like the scenes with him and Clarice, I don't feel any of the weight, because we haven't already established any relationship between Julianne Moore's Clarice and his Hannibal, so like I don't feel anything. Yeah. If it was Jodie Foster, I would have some connection there, something to, you know, latch onto, but that casting choice really was a detriment, you know, to what they were trying to do.
I didn't think about that, but I think maybe, like, I think the point that me and Quinn are hung up on is the fact that, you know, they kiss at the end. And now I know that's way worse in the books, and they kind of did it a bit better in this one, which is weird to even think. But like in the book, don't Clarice and Hannibal, like, they go off and they get married and shit?
Yeah.
Doesn't that happen? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really like that element of it. I don't know why exactly it turns into a romantic thing, because to be honest, like, Hannibal's romance has always been for Will Graham. They genuinely have like such a huge connection to each other because they think very alike. But
like you said, between Will Graham and him, Hannibal really does strike me more as like, I just don't see it between, I see him as more of like almost at least a bi or gay character, and that's something I never see with no, but like a lot of people online too are like
Hannibal...
they're way more into that shit than I am.
I think I could maybe see it if they got Jodie Foster back, because I just don't think Julianne Moore is very good in this. She doesn't really sell it very well. Like if they did some rearranging, maybe it could be more understandable. Like there's even that line in Silence of the Lambs, like when she's visiting him in his new cell, and he's like, "Oh yeah, they're probably going to think we're lovers or something." You know? And I suppose with, you know, his criminal history, that kind of goes hand in hand with, you know, kind of intimacy, I suppose. Like, what's more intimate than eating a person, I suppose? You're literally consuming them. So it does make sense that a cannibal would kind of have that connection with the people that take an interest in him, such as Clarice and Will Graham. So it does make sense that those two would be considered his love interests, if anything.
We have to touch on the dinner scene, right? I mean,
Yum.
I don't know. I thought that was so... I'd always seen clips of this, like, out of context, and I thought it was funny, but having to watch, like, a 2-hour movie up till that point, and then seeing it in the context of the movie, it was so goofy.
Oh, come on. No.
It is very goofy.
No, but for me, it's just... Because here's the thing. If the movie maintained...
It's like
if
my
the movie
favorite
maintained
scene.
kind of a goofy tone... if the movie maintained like that kind of tone and like sprinkled moments like that in, I would be totally fine with it. But to me, it's like such a jarring shift of like, we got to take this movie seriously, and then all of a sudden Ray Liotta's CGI brain is out here like,
what is goofy about it? It's scary.
I don't know. I saw it in
I suppose
a different light.
The very simple way he's reacting. I like that scene, but I do like it from almost like, it is scary, but also I see kind of comedy in it, I suppose, because of like the simple way that Ray Liotta is reacting, because like his brain is cut open and he's cut like
that's one of the
parts out of
scariest
it.
parts to me. It's like I think what makes it so scary to me is like the kind of drug fueled like nature of it. She's, you know, kind of tripping balls. Like when she gets up, she can barely fucking move properly and shit, and she's seeing like Ray Liotta just spit mumbo jumbo at her basically, and it's like a fucking terrifying nightmare that you can't wake up from. And it's like, I think it's really well presented. I love it.
I'll agree the idea of it is actually like the idea of it is actually unsettling. Yeah. I just wish it was kind of, I don't know how I would have done it, I guess.
You remember that time you watched Trainspotting, Liam, and you got high?
Yes.
How would you have reacted if you came downstairs and you saw Ray Liotta and Anthony Hopkins at the table like that?
I'd probably shit myself.
What would you... Hell yeah, dude. See...
Right on the spot.
In a way, Liam is quite like Will Graham, because he's been in that situation, so he can see into Clarice's mind. Just listen for self-affirmation. I am just like Will Graham. He's literally me.
I can see how being in the shoes of the characters in that moment would be scary, but I guess seeing it from an outside observer, like up till that point, to me, it was such a jarring shift of like, and maybe it was just funny watching Ray Liotta be the one like that was happening to. I don't know.
It's not eased into very well. I'll say that.
Yeah. That's, I think, my problem.
Oh yeah, sorry, that was immediately after the whole with the pigs eating Mason Verger, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do really like Mason Verger's death.
I like that scene.
Yeah, that was badass.
I like that
Hell
death. Yeah. That was good. I like that.
I love how he's constantly screaming at Cordell. Cordell!
Cordell! That was a satisfying death scene.
Cordell, you could push him in. You could always say it was me. I love that.
I love that too.
So
I really like that.
One thing that I did find very odd, and I wrote about this as well, Frankie Faison, he's
in all 4 Hannibal movies.
He is in all 4 Hannibal movies, but he's in Manhunter as a cop, and then in the rest of them as like the security guy at Hannibal's at the mental institution. So he plays like 2 different characters. It's weird.
Across all 4 Hannibal films, and no one considers Hannibal Rising canon.
Nor should they.
I don't even think Thomas Harris does he? He was kind of forced into writing it. Anyway, we'll get onto that at a different time, I suppose. But yeah,
I really I struggle to find any redeeming qualities for me. I don't think it's like the worst movie ever made or anything, but man, the whole time there's only a few moments I really liked, like Mason Verger's death, just some moments with Anthony Hopkins, but like I just didn't care much for the casting, didn't care much for the pacing dragged for me, the story I was not very invested in. So all in all, it sounds harsh, but I'm feeling like a 2 out of 10. Honestly, I just did not like it hardly at all.
That's a normal score.
It's just me.
That is a normal score.
My first watch of this, I detested it. I really, really hated it. But the second watch, I was just kind of like, it's nothing really to get worked up over. It's just kind of boring. Like I have a lot of issues with it. I don't like it at all, but like I'm not really angry at it. You know, it's trying to do something, but I can't really find it in myself to be, totally angry at it, But
I think that's the main thing that I appreciate about it. It did try, and it has atmosphere, which I think is important for these kind of movies.
I think it's decently directed, and it's Ridley Scott, of course it is, but I'd give it a 3 out of 10. I don't like it at all. It's just very, very boring, very bland, and I really don't like that Hannibal starts to become like a slasher killer in this. Don't like it.
I don't feel like
really
he does.
Don't like it. I kind of feel like he does, like his catchphrases and stuff. Like he's saying like, "Oh, hello, Clarice." Like it's his fucking catchphrase. I know he's just saying hi, but
the
he becomes more of a caricature than an actual person.
And okie dokie. Oh my god.
That's the one thing I don't always like about Anthony Hopkins' portrayal. Like I think he can get a bit goofy sometimes, and even in Silence of the Lambs, I'll say it. But like, he's still really good in it. But like, he just has
does
those
get goofy at
moments where he
times.
gets a bit too goofy, and I'm like, It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
No, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that with Silence of the Lambs, but I think those moments are few and far between. Whereas in this and Red Dragon, it's just like, nah.
They really go hard with it. Like, this is like...
Well, Hannibal, yeah, Red Dragon, I don't know, but that can segue into that.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll talk about a movie we've already talked about. Well, a adaptation we've already talked about, really. So Red Dragon, it's the exact same plot as Manhunter, really.
Yep.
But except it's done by Brett Ratner, one of the worst fucking directors in Hollywood.
Oh my god.
The Rush Hour movies are fun. Anyway.
Do you just immediately, like, kind of check out of it because you saw Brett Ratner?
No,
Okay.
I have genuine criticisms with this movie. Actually, this is Brett Ratner's best directed movie. I will say that much. And even then, I think it's the weakest directed of the 4 Hannibal movies. But I think there are hints of some kind of talent here. Like, comparing it to, like, his other movies, like the Rush Hour movies are fine, but apparently most of those were directed by Jackie Chan anyway, so I can't really give him credit for them. And then fucking X-Men 3, what a piece of shit, completely incomprehensible and fucking bullshit.
X-Men 3 bags.
I also like X-Men 3. I'm one of the
Get out of
few.
here, both of you. Get the fuck out
It's
of
fun.
here.
It's
Grew up
fun.
with
It's
it.
it's nowhere
fun.
near, like, perfect, but it's fun.
It's a prequel to Silence of the Lambs, and it fucking goes into that very heavily, but it's... Yeah,
It does at a point.
it does
but
come first in the Hannibal chronology, and this is treated as a prequel. And we have Edward Norton as Will Graham, and we have Harvey Keitel as Jack Crawford, and we have as Francis Dollarhide Ralph Fiennes. Sorry,
Unbelievable.
Yeah, good casting.
I genuinely think that the casting is almost perfect in this movie.
Better casting than Hannibal. I will definitely agree with
Better
that.
casting than
100%.
Manhunter.
I prefer Tom Noonan's too. I mean,
I really do too. Even though I liked Ray Fiennes a lot, I did like Ray Fiennes' portrayal in this. He was fucking good.
He's
like,
so
he was
good.
actually
Like,
really good.
Yeah.
obviously
I
this
liked
is
it, yeah.
way closer to the book. Like in Manhunter,
Yes.
in Manhunter they don't even
Yeah.
go into the Red Dragon painting. They don't even go into the reason why he's called the Red Dragon. Like they say it's like a Mahjong symbol or something, and that's all they say about Red Dragon. When it's kind of, from what I know, it is
a lot
like the
more than
crux
that.
of, yeah, it's the crux of Dollarhide's character. Like his whole philosophy is based off like the paintings of the Swan artist, basically, and he sees himself as, the Red Dragon painting, basically. Would I be right in saying
Yeah.
that?
Well, yeah, he wants to be reborn.
That is the word. I don't know if I was just comparing this too much to Manhunter this time around, but like there's like, I just can't get down with this, I'm afraid. I was bored the whole way through, and Manhunter was always on my mind, so maybe that's where my fault was. But it just does nothing for me. I just kind of see it as like it's a more accurate adaptation, but the adaptation that you can draw the adaptations that you can draw parallels to in Manhunter, I think are done in a much less interesting way in this. Like from my personal taste anyway. Even from the very beginning where he goes into, I forget the name of the family, but that family's
The
house.
Leeds
I
family?
think from the Leeds family. From that point, like I was just thinking back to how Manhunter was doing it. I don't really think you get to see Will Graham's ability to see into the mind of, well, to empathize with Dollarhide, and empathize with his actions. He's just kind of going about the house and investigating, and you don't really see much of him thinking like how a killer would, I don't think. He's just kind of doing like a rote investigation more than anything.
Well, this is like a character that Will Graham, like, consistently throughout every version has, like, kind of stayed away from. Like, he never really goes, like, very deep into the Red Dragon because he knows about his past. Like, if he goes into something a little too deep, he starts losing his mind.
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
I
that
think
that
that's
is
a lot of
touched
the
on.
reason why he's not quite as, like, active in doing that.
Do you think it's intentional though? Is the thing. Like, obviously the Hannibal case like drove him insane. Like, that is a crucial point of the story.
Yeah.
Like, even in Manhunter they do say it, like, he quit the FBI because he just couldn't handle the Hannibal case, and that basically drove him insane. Like, what you're saying about him not wanting to get too deep into the Red Dragon's mind, that does make sense, but I think it's kind of to the detriment to this film here, because like those investigation scenes, they just bored me to tears. It was just like there's nothing there to latch onto. You're just seeing the crime scene. I don't think there'd be any difference in showing
It's far
pictures
more,
of the
like,
crime scene.
in depth with the, like, procedural shit than Manhunter was. Like,
Oh,
at
I
least in my-
disagree.
What they get more into like the Red Dragon's like psyche and shit. They don't really talk about that too much in Manhunter.
I suppose I'm more thinking about the evidence and stuff. Like I was talking about in Manhunter, really loving the scene where they find the note from Dollarhide to Hannibal. They like chop that to shit in this version. It's very fast paced. There's like constant music over it. I really don't like that decision. Like compared to Manhunter, because Manhunter is more thorough with the actual like examining the evidence.
Yeah,
let's say, and I really like that about Manhunter. Whereas this, it just feels more like an action movie. With the editing and the pacing, it's like very fast paced. Like
it's
you
not fast
rarely
paced.
get.
It's very like slow paced in my opinion. Like
no,
at
kind
least
of felt
somewhere
very
in the
fast
middle.
paced.
I didn't feel it being fast at all.
I'm really in between both of you guys in terms of like having also seen, I mean, we've all seen Manhunter, but like, you know, me and Keelan having also liked it, like you can't help but compare, like, I mean, because it is almost a beat for beat story in a lot of ways. And so like, I mean, down to the dialogue, it was almost line for line, you know, dialogue from Manhunter, which I'm sure was
it takes so much more from the books though, like not just from Manhunter or anything like that. Manhunter is very like I said, I think it just takes little bits of the book, really.
I took down notes while watching this, and there's a note here that I don't get anymore. I just wrote down fucking stupid jump scare. I can't remember what that was.
I wonder what that was from.
There is a really bad one that, like, it's so stupid, but is the one where, like, Molly is in the house and then her kid comes up to the door and then the helicopter comes?
I think it might have been that, because in my notes it's before
it's so stupid
Freddie
because
Lowndes
like
comes into
there's
it.
like barely a fucking noise, and then all of a sudden it just cuts to a helicopter like right outside her window, and it's like, what?
Oh wait,
there was no noise.
Sorry,
2 seconds ago you would have heard that helicopter coming.
I remember that. Yeah, that was weird.
So random.
Sorry, no, I think it was
Yeah.
much earlier on, because it's before, in my notes it's before Freddie Lowndes even comes into it.
Like I said, I'm in the middle. Like I'm kind of with Keelan in terms of like I enjoyed Manhunter more, even though I know this is more. I'm sure this is more faithful to the book, but I do want to mention, I guess, things that I think this did better, or that I liked more than Manhunter.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the opening scene, getting to see that confrontation between Will Graham and
yeah, I
Hannibal
forgot
Lecter,
about
like
that.
seeing the incident happen. Like that was I liked that scene.
I really liked
that was a
that
good
scene.
opening. I empathized a whole lot more with I can't think of the character's name, but the blind woman. That
Oh,
character.
she is great. She is really great in this.
I empathize. Yeah, just that actress. Like she's naturally
I don't
empathetic.
usually like
I feel
Emily
like
Watson
I felt
that much, but she's
Really?
fucking great here.
I really liked the portrayal of her character as opposed to Manhunter. I definitely liked this one way more. Like I actually cared about this character.
Even comparing the show as well, like she genuinely might be the best version of Reba that I've seen. So good in this, and I especially like love that scene with her and Will at the end. I think that scene's just gorgeous. I really like it.
Yeah,
I do like that
I just
scene.
really, I just cared a lot more about the character this time because of, I guess, her portrayal and maybe what they did with her.
And Edward Norton is so much better suited to Will Graham in this. Like, I think he does it extremely well. And like another comparison you could make as well is like he's also having to play someone that's incredibly fucking tired for the entire movie in Fight Club. So he's doing it pretty well in this.
Yeah, he definitely does. And I guess, but that brings me to a thing, like everybody kind of felt tired in this movie. Is that the way it's supposed to be in the book? Philip Seymour Hoffman, I just thought was kind of like just mumbling his way through, and maybe that's more so to what the character's supposed to be, because, you know, like the guy in the last movie.
I love Philip Seymour Hoffman, but he sucks in this.
I don't think he was a good choice for the character.
Yeah, I just thought it was really a bland performance, and I also thought that Hannibal Lecter, there's like one scene I would compare. The scene from Brian Cox when he dials up the number and tries to get that information, as opposed to the scene of Anthony Hopkins doing it here. It just did not hit the same at all. It just felt like Anthony Hopkins was just like reading his lines. He just kind of felt like just not nearly as charismatic and like gripping in terms of that. Like that's one example.
I thought that exact same thing.
Like having enjoyed a lot of those moments from Manhunter and then seeing similar moments down to the line, I guess, done again in this, but seeing it not done in a way that I liked as much. It was just, I don't know. I didn't really like that. But like I said, it's a mixed bag. There are things that I think this movie did better for me, but there's a lot of things that I think Manhunter, I enjoyed more the way it did.
Him and Will Graham's meeting, the first one, hate it. I hate it so much. They try so hard to emulate the style of shooting of Silence of the Lambs. It kind of shows what I mean when, like, I think I said when we talked about Silence of the Lambs, I think it's one of the best directed films I've seen. It kind of shows the disparity of talent, I suppose. Ratner is trying to do these close-ups that they do in Silence of the Lambs. Like, he is very much trying to go for it. Like, I like the dialogue in that scene. It does have a lot of the same dialogue that I enjoyed in Manhunter. But, like, you know, Dream Much Will and stuff like that. I love that shit. Love that shit. The way it was shot, man, I just can't get down with it. It feels like it's trying to ape too much on Silence of the Lambs' success.
I found that really weird too. I found like little references and almost like visual callbacks to Silence of the Lambs all the time. I'm like, are we remaking fucking Manhunter or Silence of the Lambs? Like,
The one like really big problem I have with it is the last scene. Like, it's
Jesus Christ.
so stupid.
we
So
got it.
stupid.
Yeah, let's touch on that. Fucking MCU ending right
Jesus
there.
Christ.
Just like leading it right in. That literally, I mean, it makes sense they got Brett Ratner because that's literally a Marvel ending right there.
What is her name?
It's like Hannibal Lecter will return.
Spoilers for Red Dragon.
Yeah, Chilton just coming in and being like, there's this young woman from the FBI. She's quite attractive. I think you'd like her.
Yeah. And then
What is her
like,
name? Cut to black. Oh my god, it is
So
dog
stupid.
shit.
Dun, dun.
Shit.
It's really bad. What did we think of Harvey Keitel?
He was fine.
good.
I thought he was good. I didn't like love him. I mean, I thought he was just good.
He's Harvey
He's
Keitel.
Harvey.
I like Harvey Keitel.
Yeah.
I think he's the second best Jack Crawford.
I can definitely see that.
I think he feels a lot more kind of empathetic towards Will. Like, it feels
Yeah.
like they actually have a history and a relationship in this one, whereas I didn't really feel that in the others.
You know, I can agree with that. You know, it's more accurate to the book, and it does have a lot more information on Dollarhide, which we haven't really talked about him much, but like his intro scene, it feels so amateurish. Like the way like he's just like reading like the newspaper and he crosses out Tooth Fairy and he circles like he has like a newspaper of fucking Hannibal Lecter and he's like caressing the image. It feels so, it's like such a film student way to like get these points across, whereas like in Manhunter it was kind of delivered naturally, I felt, and like the first time you did see Dollarhide was when he meets Freddie Lowndes. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to give more of a backstory, more motivation for Francis Dollarhide, but the way it was done there, that annoyed me. I did not like that bit at all.
I don't know either. I mean,
I think the whole like Red Dragon element of this is probably like the best part of it, because I really love Ralph Fiennes and Emily Watson.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
by far the strongest part of the movie for me. I do like the Red
I
Dragon
agree.
stuff.
Same here. That to me, that was what like carried the movie for me was Ralph Fiennes and Emily Watson. I liked all their scenes. I thought all of that was kind of done better, even though I do prefer Tom Noonan. But I still liked Ralph Fiennes' portrayal a lot too.
But for the Freddie Lowndes scene as well, I did really like how they did that, and it was expanded upon more.
Being like glued to the chair and shit. It's
Dude,
like so
yeah, that was more that was more uneasy. Like that scene made me a lot more uneasy than the Manhunter scene. That was another thing that kind of did better in this movie. Like I was more unsettled.
And I do think that scene was quite well directed. Like
And it's like grossly presented too. It's like it just
Yeah, it
looks
is.
so.
Oh, just seeing his skin like kind of glued and try and like pull away. That's just shit like that gets to me. It does.
and then when he reveals the tattoo, oh my god, what a cool tattoo!
I'm getting that tattoo. I don't
Phyllis
give a
Seymour
fuck.
Hoffman's like,
No, you're not. No, you're
Yes,
not.
I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. I think the fact that he feels so like monotone is kind of more scary to me.
yeah.
Yeah, I do like it in Manhunter that he monotonous he is in that, and I do like some of my issues with a lot of the scenes in this movie does come down to the music. I don't really like the music in this at all. I think it kind of it tries to insist a feeling on you more often than not.
That's fair.
And I'm sure you thought that there's a distinct lack of Inagata Devita in this too, huh?
I didn't want to bring it
Dude,
up. I
imagine
didn't want to
if
bring it up.
I had to.
Also, there was just this little fact that I read about. I don't know if you guys knew, but Thomas Harris like has famously like avoided the movies pretty much. He didn't watch Silence of the Lambs at all. But then I think it was like updated in 2019 that he watched it on TV because it came on one time, and he said it was a wonderful movie. So
Awesome.
just casually watched it when it came on TV
Yeah.
one time.
But
Well, good.
he
I'm
doesn't
I mean,
like
the-
another
he doesn't like
Stephen King
watching
shining.
that stuff because he doesn't like it being like influential on his writing.
I mean, that's fair. That's totally smart.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest did the exact same thing, but he like turned it off halfway through. Yeah, the whole ending, that is very accurate to the book, but I'm still kind of confused as to what went on. Who did he shoot at the end? Because there is a dead body that he shot in the face.
I'm pretty sure that in the book it's said that it was a gas station attendant that he had an altercation with. In this one, I think it's kind of like up for you to assume that it might be the newspaper guy that he had the altercation with.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know for sure, but all I know is he faked his own death, obviously.
And does the book end exactly like that? Whereas, I mean, it must have, where he finds Will Graham's house and he, threatens his kid.
It's been a while since I read it, to be honest. I don't remember that part too well. I don't
sure
remember
it
exactly how it
happened,
ends.
then.
Just like fucking insulting his kid to get a dollar hide.
Oh, you thought,
calling
you
his
thought that was
kid a
goofy?
faggot
I
and
thought that
shit?
was clever.
Yeah.
I actually I like that
hilarious.
part because I thought that was a really like smart way to.
It is smart.
Like get his kid out of that situation. To get to the heart of fucking dollar
I really
hide.
like that scene.
I
really like it.
thought it was creative.
Imagine the conversation
Yeah.
afterwards, though. I didn't mean those words, son. I just had to get that weird man out of the
I know,
house.
right? I was like, in the moment, I'm thinking like you're like traumatizing your kid right now, and he still might.
he's
die,
doing it
and
to
this
save
could be
his
like
life.
the last words you say to him. He is doing
I
it
mean,
to save his
yeah,
life, but I'm
it's-
like,
it's-
these could still be the last words you say to your kid.
It's between calling him the F slur and him dying. So.
He just had to get all that homophobic rage he's been built up for so long. He got a reason to get it out.
He's projecting because he's in love with Hannibal.
Exactly. I was
Right.
going to say that.
That's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, this Will Graham and this Hannibal I don't see, but Will Dancy and sorry, what's his name? Hugh Dancy and Hugh Dancy and fucking Mads Mikkelsen. I could see that. But here, like the Granddad King.
But but yeah, overall, I'm probably in between you two. I enjoyed it for a lot of things, but I also did think it was inferior in some ways to like the moments I liked from Manhunter. But I'm sure in the end, at least this was more faithful to the source material. But to me, it's just not great movie, but it's not a bad movie at all either. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. I thought it was solid. It was a decent watch.
Nice.
Definitely better than Hannibal. God, I mean, maybe it was coming off of Hannibal.
I
and
agree.
I watched this. I'm like, this is fucking good.
I'm going straight with a 4 out of 10. I really don't like this movie. I think I give it a 5 out of 10 on first watch, and in my Letterboxd review, I said I'm never watching this movie again, but it was okay. Then I had to go and recommend it.
Third time's the charm.
Yeah, that's true. Third time.
Maybe I'm sleeping on that Brett Ratner guy. Maybe he's got some real talent.
Whatever happened to make this movie come together, it worked for me. The parts that aren't like totally accurate to the book, that like kind of do their own thing and deviate, like they still work for me too. I really enjoy it. I think the casting is like pretty much perfect as well, aside from Philip Seymour Hoffman, but I really enjoy it. I enjoy pretty much everything about it, aside from all the ties to Silence of the Lambs, like we said. I think that part is like the worst. The ending is fucking trash, but yeah, everything else I really like, and it's a 9 out of 10 for me.
What? Holy shit. Fuck, I didn't expect that.
Sorry,
My God.
it's my favorite.
Sorry, that was
it's
a-
my favorite of the Hannibal movies.
I didn't fucking expect that. No, that's fine.
It's
I'm not
fine.
going to give it out to
It's
you.
not fine.
Is this a new record? It might be. I don't know if this is a new record.
I think the record's
It could
12,
be.
isn't it?
If the record's 12, then we tied it.
One thing before I forget, there's one new soundboard, I think.
Oh,
Is this an exclusive?
funny that it's directed by a woman, which is
Yeah.
like makes it even
Ugh.
kind of. Which
What the fuck?
Hell yeah,
Oh.
dude.
It's that ugh.
Women.
whatever gets us popular, let's just piss everyone off. That's a new one too.
Yeah, it is. I forgot.
Hell yeah.
We got a lot of listener questions, so let's get into listener questions.
Let's fucking go.
Ali_Ka93. What about the prequel called Hannibal Rising?
We don't talk about
Did
that.
any of you
doesn't
guys
exist.
watch that?
Go ahead.
All I'll say is that there's a lot of stupid shit in that movie, and the main actor he's really weird, but visually the movie looked great. Visually the movie is great. I'm not even kidding. And there's some good ideas, but a lot of bad ideas. It's a mixed bag. I gave it a 5 out of 10, which is like maybe being generous, but it was a mixed bag. A couple from All Right So Reviews. What would a new Hannibal film with a returning, more experienced Michael Mann be like?
He's kind of fallen
Yeah,
off.
not as good. I was about to say, I think Michael Mann's old stuff's better than his new stuff.
What
so.
has he done that's new?
Ferrari, Black Hat.
Oh yeah, Ferrari.
That Public Enemies movie,
Public
which I don't remember
Enemies.
anything about. His other question was, of all the actors to play Hannibal, why is Mads on the show the best?
Only Liam can say.
He's right.
Yeah.
He's completely
Maybe
right.
you're right.
With Hopkins, like he's great, but like I said, he has those moments where it just kind of slips in and out of goofiness and stuff. And Mads Mikkelsen in the show like has moments of kind of like comic relief stuff. It's very subtle, and like he doesn't make a big deal out of it. I feel like his face is joking along with him, like whereas Anthony kind of does sometimes. They're both
sure
great.
I love Mads. I'm sure I'll like his performance, but I think personally it'll be hard to detach from Anthony Hopkins. For as much as I love Silence of the Lambs, it'd be really hard to. Some more questions from movies, scenes, and shit. Would Hannibal have been a better movie if Clarice and Lecter fell in love and ran away like in the books? No.
Would have been worse.
No, please. To me, that just sounds like bad fan fiction, but if it happens in the books, like, wow. From movies that don't suck, will the Hannibal show with Mads be revived?
No, and it shouldn't. I don't want it anymore. Like I think that if it came back now, it would not be the same.
Yeah, I think that's the only issue around it. Like I've heard people there is like fan outcry for it, like for a lot of fans.
I think it was around like 2015 or 16 that it ended, but like it got cancelled by NBC. They kind of had to sort of like write where the show was going, like as they were filming it.
So it does have a definitive ending, because that's like one of my biggest worries, like with the show.
Sort of. It's kind of like this thing where it could be continued in the future.
It could be the end, but it could be continued, yeah.
If it stops there, it's fine. And I'd rather it stop there, at least now, because it's been so much time.
From Film Forager, she asked, she said, I was so scared of Anthony Hopkins after Silence of the Lambs. What are some other actors who may have tainted your opinion of them based on a disturbing role they took?
Ooh.
Oh, Jesus, that's a good question.
My first Heath Ledger performance I ever saw was in The Dark Knight. It was the Joker. So, like, after watching that, I could not see him as anything else other than the Joker.
I think I used to be a bit scared of Green Goblin.
Oh, Willem Dafoe?
Yeah.
I can't say who the actor is. An actor in Twin Peaks. That's all I'm saying. No, I'm thinking specifically of Disturbing, because I think that's more the point of the question, where like the role is so fucked up that you're like, if you see him in like a wholesome role or whatever, it's just like, no, that doesn't fit. That does not fit. Maybe Barry Keoghan in fucking Killing with Sacred Deer. I don't think he's ever matched up to that kind of level of creepiness in anything he's done since.
Yeah.
But no, my first Ralph Fiennes was probably Voldemort in Harry Potter, and so like, yeah, seeing that as a kid, having that cemented in my mind as a kid so much, and then watching him in other stuff, that was definitely hard to separate too.
They're a great actor. I fucking love seeing him in everything, but I think Stephen Graham in This Is England.
Oh.
I think that's something where like I'm always going to be thinking of Combo whenever I see him. That sort of thing. Even though he is probably one of the best actors working today, and he should be in more because he's phenomenal.
3 questions from films around the world. So, first one, if Red Dragon was being remade, who would you like to direct it? So, remake of a remake.
There's already been 3 versions.
Remake of a remake. Yeah, 3 versions of it.
Fourth version.
Let's do it again. I do think David Fincher could be a good choice.
Red Dragon was already giving me like 7 vibes at times. Like, just the way it looked, kind of. So like I could totally see that.
Jonathan Glazer. Make it all creepy and shit, like Under the Skin. Just make it all abstract.
I mean, he would give it a more artistic approach, which is kind of what some of these need.
Yeah. That is true. Break out of the formula a bit, make it more risk-taking. He also asked, where does Hannibal rank in Ridley Scott's filmography?
I don't know.
Where does it rank? That's an interesting question.
I haven't seen it all.
I've seen like 11 of Ridley Scott's movies, and it's dead last for me, I'll be honest.
Sorry, let's see. I have seen 8 Ridley Scott movies. It would come in third last.
Third to last? Wow, what's under it?
Robin Hood.
Oh,
that's at the bottom. Alien Covenant.
Fuck you.
Oh, I don't... No, I'm with Liam.
Hell yeah.
I think Alien Covenant's way overhated.
It's so
I don't think it's that bad at all.
I think it's also the worst Ridley Scott movie I've seen.
Oh, Hannibal.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's
I mostly like what I've seen from him, so...
He's a good director, but he just gets too full of himself sometimes. He gets too, like, indulgent. How would you rank the Hannibal Lecter performances? Anthony Hopkins, then Brian Cox. Yeah, because Hannibal Rising. Oh my God, he's dead.
Yeah,
last.
you've seen
that
3.
Fucker's dead last. I've seen 3. I forgot about it. Hannibal Rising. That guy is so weird looking.
I feel like Mads Mikkelsen would probably be my favorite if I watched the show. because I'm not too attached to Anthony Hopkins' version. Like, I really love him in Silence of the Lambs, but in Hannibal and Red Dragon, not so much. And I do really like Brian Cox's version, so it could go either way.
It's Mads, Anthony, and then Brian for me.
From moving _ pictures, would you eat someone?
Yes.
Yes.
Quinn?
Yeah, sure. I'm kind of
Join the echo
disturbed
chamber.
as to why you both just, without hesitation, just both said yes in unison.
We know what we like.
Yeah.
Why
not?
If it was
Experiment.
the
Go out of
only
your
way I
comfort
could
zone.
live, if it was the only way I could live, if I had to eat to survive, then I would have to.
Apparently, some of the meals in Hannibal look quite delicious.
Oh, they all look delicious. I mean, they make it look delicious, like purposefully. Like it just does look good.
Why is this not the first time that Liam has talked about cannibalism, wanting to?
I will
eat
send you
people on this
pictures of
podcast?
plates in that show with food on them, and you tell me it
Ron
doesn't.
No,
and Hannibal.
They are meant to look quite delicious. Like, I think they actually consulted some like culinary experts.
They have a whole cookbook like with the show that you can buy.
Do you have it?
That's
No.
crazy.
I'd love it, but broke.
Wow. The last question from Brody. Maybe you could help me decipher this. Is our memory limited? Is our memory limited? That's all it is. I mean, yeah, everyone's memory is limited, but there's like, I've looked up like how much memory can your brain store, and it's a fucking lot. It is a lot of memory you can store.
I don't think our memory is limited. I think that is a myth perpetrated by the liberal elite trying to make us think less of ourselves.
I think our memory
Yeah.
is becoming more limited because of the reptilians taking over.
Thanks for all the questions, people. 12 questions. Wow.
Thank you, everybody.
Almost
Holy
beat the
crap.
record. I know. All it took was me threatening people with Hannibal Lecter on my story. I was like, next topic. So it's me, right?
Yeah.
It's me.
It's
and
you.
all we know, next episode is episode 50. Big episode.
Oh, yeah.
So
Shit, fuck.
all I know so far is that we have to eat peppers throughout the episode because we're just having to suffer, I guess. Was back and forth between my topics up until like literally this morning.
Oh, yeah.
And so, because I have a good idea, I have an idea that I really want to do, because I think it'd be a fun episode to pair with the peppers, and for episode 50 it'd just be a fun topic. But I hope it doesn't seem too daunting. I don't think it'd be too daunting. I mean, I had movies in mind, but I also thought maybe we could bring it back to music for a bit, just because, we've been talking about movies the last couple. And
Oh no! There's no way.
don't tell me you fucking already know what I'm
No,
gonna
you're
say.
not doing what I think you are you?
Are you doing what you're?
You better not.
No. What do you? I don't know. What do you think I'm doing?
I don't know anymore.
Yeah, we're gonna be. Look, this will be a fun episode because we're gonna be suffering with the peppers. But let's just say he did it all for the nookie, because we're talking about Limp
No!
Bizkit.
No! Oh.
That's so much worse.
What? Is it worse? What? Wait, who did you think I was gonna say?
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh,
Why the fuck? I don't even like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's a hot
Because
take,
peppers.
but- I know, but no, now hear me out. Now
Keelan, you idiot.
that was the last thing on my mind. That would have been smart though. That actually would have made more sense than what I picked.
There's no fucking way.
I don't want it to. We're at the point to where
50th episode
I don't
will
want
be Limp Bizkit.
because it's just, I thought it'd be a fun, goofy topic.
I'm sure it
Peppers
will be.
in 50 episodes to talk about Limp Bizkit. They do have 7 albums, but 2 of them are only 30 minutes long, so it's basically like 6, and they're pretty easy to get through. I mean, just you must go in with an open mind, and
I will
with an
try,
open
yeah.
mind, wanting to have fun. Just go in wanting to have fun, because they're tongue in cheek, they don't take themselves seriously, and they're a lot of fun. They've got some bangers. Anyway, that's about it. So you can find me on all the social medias at Views by Quinn.
And you can also find me on all the social medias as Movies Music Me, pretty much. Check the link tree in the bio.
Those past two statements, those were also true. And you can also find me as Only Shallow on Linktree. On everything.
All right, good stuff. Yep, and peace out, bitches!